Hey, Slick Talkers, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And I know that if you love this show, you'll also love my morning show called Good Morning Hospitality with my co-hosts Michael Golden and Brandy Canali, as we spend 30 minutes every Monday morning to dive into the industry's top latest news and trending topics. So go check it out on wherever you find your podcasts at Good Morning Hospitality. And you can live stream with us on Monday mornings on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast where we discuss all things hospitality, hotels, and business. You can find us online at slicktalkthepodcast.com and on every podcast listening platform.
Welcome back, everybody, to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. I am your host, Will Slickers, and today I have my co-host with me, Chandler Rowlett. What's up, Chandler?
Hey, it's nice to be here again.
Yeah, man. So for everyone who's listened to the podcast consecutively and in a row and followed every episode, last episode, Chandler and I did a self-interview of myself and just the background story of how Slick Talk, the podcast, got started, as well as the future goals and overall picture of what we intend to do with the podcast and the platform. So, Chandler, kind of want to talk, the whole point of this episode is let's talk leading by example. And I want to tell a quick story. All right. So, a few days ago at the hotel that we work at, and just for the sake, we're not going to say the name just until, a while, but we were at this at our hotel, and it was pretty busy. Guests checked in.
It was a crazy day.
Yeah, crazy day. And we had one particular guest that stood out a little bit. They were a little more on the demanding side, more, very needy, which is totally fine. I expect that in the summer because, rates and everything are super high. But the guest was not very happy because in their dishwasher in the room, the dishes were overfilled, and so when the dishes were ran before they checked in, they didn't get all the way cleaned, and so they were pretty upset. They wanted to, use the dishes for their dinner, breakfast, and, lunches that they made, but to have to clean the dishes from a guest before was not an idea they had in mind. So obviously, I totally understood they were pretty frustrated about it, and so. Went up there with some new dishes and dishwashing soap and dishwasher pod, and they showed me the dishes and totally made sense. It was just an error, on and hotels make those. So
it's human error.
Yeah,
things happen all the time. You make mistakes.
Yeah, and so it's our job to make it right. Being the front office manager and everything, I easily could have just been like, hey. I could have sent our houseman up there. I could have sent one of our front desk agents up there. I could have sent anybody up there and be like, hey, go clean their dishes. We had no housekeeping. It was later in the evening, so housekeeping was already home for the day. And I thought about it as I was heading back down, told the guests to just let us know when they're done and or they're about to head out for dinner. And so I told them, just let me know when they're done. I'll send somebody up. But instead of sending somebody up, I went up there, and the whole team knew. The whole team knew that they weren't happy, and we had to go clean the dishes. They were expecting somebody else to go. So I took off my jacket, and I went up there in my suit and tie, and did the dishes by hand. And hand washed, hand dried, put away, everything. And this wasn't this story in general. It wasn't to toot my own horn or to make myself stand out. It was because as I was thinking I could send somebody up to this room and make them clean it and do it, I wanted to set the example. And I wanted to have our team, no matter what, whether the guest booked through Booking or Expedia or is paying a low rate versus a high rate, I want the team to see that just because I'm the FOM doesn't mean I'm not going to get down and dirty and clean rooms and inspect and do that because I expect the same thing from everybody else. I really wanted to set the example. And as I was doing the dishes, I had some time to reflect about this whole story and everything. And again, I didn't want my team to be like, wow, you're so cool. Good job. My front office manager. I wanted them to see the side of, all right, we get stuff done. We take care of the guests no matter what. Even if the owner, if he was there, I would expect the same thing. Lead by example and to do what needs to get done in order to guarantee satisfaction. So that kind of inspired like the whole episode for me. And I wanted to tell that quick story just because I think it's really important for that, because sometimes I feel like we in general, as in the hospitality or hotel industry, can lose some of that passion, where the reason why we're here is because of the guests. The reason why we do what we do is because of our team and the guests as a whole.
And also to create an experience, a wholesome experience that 10 years down the road, guests will look back on that. They'll look through their phone, they'll see photos, they'll see videos, whatever, you name it. They will look back at that in time and they will think, man, that was it. It was amazing. It was an experience. I want to go back.
It may have not been a good experience right in the beginning, but we turned it around. And that's what I want them to remember, is that, for anyone who's listening, we always talk about the experience. And I think as time goes on, I want this to be, like Chandler just said, 10 years down the road, I want us to be able to reflect on the experience. Always going to be experience from day one, whether we're still in the same spot in 5 or 10 years, or if we're way higher up and doing whatever else we're doing. I want us to always be able to say it's always been about the experience.
Exactly. And oh, man, I love this subject, because when you lead by example, you do create a picture of what is possible. People can look at you and say, well, if he can do it, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So then that gives them the motivation and determination to go and do those things.
Yeah.
When you lead by example, you make it easy for others to follow you. It's that simple. And the fact that you said, I could have sent someone else up there, but instead I got down and dirty. That, as a manager, you can't lead from the sidelines. You need to be involved in the work and know the ins and outs of the business. Working alongside your team helps build trust while expanding your own skills and knowledge. And trust is a very, very important thing to have as a manager. You need to know that your employees will have your back as long as you have theirs. That
Exactly.
is very, very important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You and I were kind of talking this morning. This is somewhat off topic, but not really. You and I were talking about, a situation that happened, and just the overall, like, hey, here's a big heads up of what happened, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end of the conversation, I remember asking you to think about, hey, what can I do to empower you guys as a team? Not as lower enlisted, quote unquote, people, but just overall as what can I do to empower you as a leader? Like you just said, you can't lead from the sidelines. You have to be up front and going for it. And like you said, trust, so important. And especially being the new manager. Little backstory: I've only been in my position since May 16th, and being the new manager, even though I was with the team beforehand for the previous year, still taking that new position, I think it changes the way everyone looks at you as a whole. They looked at you as a coworker in the early
Mm-hmm.
stages. Now in a leadership position.
Yeah,
it does add a different aspect. So I kind of want your thoughts, and this is just spitballing because I want this to be an open conversation that for anyone who's listening could also maybe have experienced themselves or are going through, because what are things do you think, actually we'll get back to this question. What are some things that you think a manager or a leader can do to empower his team? But also I really like to hear like maybe some bad experiences, because we've all had them. I think we've all had bad leaders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So
whether you work in hospitality, you work in a restaurant, you're work in a hospital, you work at Dairy Queen,
dishwasher
Taco
at Little
Bell.
Caesars,
yeah,
you name
exactly.
it. Yeah.
You name it. Everyone throughout their professional careers experience bad leadership at least once.
Mm-hmm.
It's bound to happen. Not everyone is.
Which is sad, because you think if you're in a leadership position, you deserved it. You would be a good leader, but no. So
not everyone's quite cut out for it.
What do you think? What do you think we miss? Like, not we as in you and I, but like, what do you think companies miss when it comes to promoting somebody to a leadership position? Does it get to the person's head? Are they putting on a facade where it looks like they're doing great leadership in front of everybody else that's higher up? Or do they just lose passion?
In all honesty, I think it's a mixture of all of those. I think that look back through history. If you look at any of the greatest civilizations in the world, power corrupts.
Yeah.
It strokes people's egos. It
Yeah.
goes to their heads. People just lose themselves. They lose I'm not saying they always do. I'm just saying they can.
Yeah.
Most people don't have a strong enough character, integrity, a personality to hold and maintain a level of power and influence.
It comes a lot to with control.
Exactly. Some people are control freaks. Some people can not give a hoot.
Yeah.
But I think a major important thing that small businesses, corporations, what they lose sight of is listening to your team.
Yeah, that's very true.
And proper communication. Because if the top is not communicating with the bottom, letting them know what's going on within the business, or it ruins the experience, not just for the employees, but for the guests, for the customer.
Yeah.
It is very important to have proper communication and listen.
Because in my experience, I think I totally agree. Communication is huge, 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 huge. That's why at our property, we brought in Slack. We've brought in these other tools that help us communicate. We have a radio log where,
exactly, we can keep track of
everything. But with that, when, let's say you're an owner, right? Do you feel like you need to be 100% transparent? Or because I feel like maybe giving out too much of the business information.
Yeah. No, giving out, there's a fine line.
Yeah.
You need to find balance. Just like anything you do in your daily life, you need to have balance. Balance is essential to any basic function of your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Whether it's your private life or your
work,
public life,
yeah,
and the work environment.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes people just don't take responsibility for their actions.
Oh, totally.
Like some leaders will just be like,
we're trying one at my fiance's Airbnb place.
Yeah.
We got a review from one of the guests that just went on and on about how awesome they thought the checkout button was.
Sweet.
So we do get a lot of good feedback from the guests, and we just see it end to end. We see both the stakeholders, really, both the guest and host. So it's how do we make it easy for the host to then free up the host to do a better job of focusing on those personal touches.
Yeah.
And how do we make sure that there isn't friction along the way for the guests, that they can get in the door, do their thing, and it's just everything works. There's no hiccups getting in. There's no question of whether they're at the right place because they got pictures in the email that looks exactly like the place and directions how to go up the path and how to open the door. So it's the small things that really help in terms of the overall experience. Yeah,
definitely. I was gonna say I definitely noticed the smoothness on our arrival, and all these tools and services that you have built are in your property. And me and my team arrived late last night, so having the pictures and the email and the code, and it was just perfect. It was such a smooth transaction. And I always like to kind of tease my parents a little bit, but nobody's looking for a hidden rock key to get into the door. It's a nice, great spot. So I really think this is awesome. And the like you said, just the overall uniqueness and the I guess easy transition for the host and for the guests is just top notch. That's what the whole industry, I think, just needs. And so it's really cool that you guys are getting feedback. The guests do notice the small things, and especially the checkout button. As I look at it on the door, you can't see it on the camera, but it's right there, and it's pretty sweet. So I think it's awesome. For you as the CEO of Armor, what's kind of the long-term vision of Armor, and where where do you see it going? So obviously you're creating more services and kind of focusing on the both sides of the coin, I guess you could say, for the guest and the host. Where do you see the vision long term?
We're focusing on, I would say, two kinds of service. One is the innovative type of services, things like the checkout button, where we can offer something new to the industry, something that no one else is doing, and again, focusing back on the host and guest experience. And then the other type of service we're looking to is ones where we think the ones out there are overpriced. If we can offer a service that's more cost effective, that provides value to the guest and host experience, that's the other area we're focusing our services. So we have the overall vision of how do we get it end to end during a stay, that the guest smoothly goes through the whole stay. There's no hiccups. Everything's easy for them, and on the host side as well. So both the guest and host are having an easy time. The host isn't doing a lot of repetitive tasks. The guest isn't having trouble arriving or trouble figuring out where to put the garbage or where to find things. That they're getting information to them on what are cool things in the area, where's the coolest restaurant near where they're staying. So it's really thinking through that all and seeing how, as a software company and company with interest in the smart home space, how we offer value to our customers.
Yeah, that's definitely great offering and great overall just goal. I just think the overall process, the vision of the guest experience and kind of creating that experience for hosts and coming back. And so I guess really this is just so unique, and I think it's becoming, I don't know, for all the listeners, to me, I just really am excited because I think this is going to be the new standard for the vacation rental space and even hotels. There's so many applications to a lot of these services and a lot of this tech. I know it probably, I don't know, is maybe a little bit longer to set everything up in the beginning with the system, but it saves, I think, a lot more in the long run, like kind of what you're talking about with just the overall guests not having to look around for everything, and just the overall experience and stay itself is way better. But where can people find out more about Armor? Where can they find where to get the system, the checkout button, anything that you guys are providing and creating and wheeling out there for people in the vacation rental or even hospitality as a whole?
First place to look at would be our website. It's spelled aurmur.com. And on that, we provide links. We sell our checkout button on Amazon. For hubs and locks, we support onboarding a variety onto our platform. So once again, on our website, we provide details on the variety of smart locks that we support. And then there's a registration process which takes you through setting up the checkout button and setting up the lock system as well.
Have you gotten good reviews on the setup process for hosts that are implementing these services into their property?
Yes, we also sell a lock and hub package on Amazon.
Okay.
And you can certainly read through the reviews there. We've got a lot of great reviews.
Sweet. So it sounds just like a nice, smooth, easy process.
Yep.
I love it. Well, thank you guys for choosing Slick Talk to be the podcast that you listened to today. I will put a link in the description of this podcast and video going to Armor's website, where you can find out everything directly on their site, along with a couple cool things that Curtis has mentioned, like the Amazon links and everything as well. But that's on all his website, so there's no need for it. If you have any questions, you can always email me, whatever, Facebook message, everything. We have lots of cool stuff that we're going to be promoting with Armor, and I'm excited to have him on the show. So thank you.
Thanks
for having us. What's up, everybody? I really hope you enjoyed today's podcast. As you can tell, I love Curtis's checkout button and, of course, all the other services that they provide. So go to aurmur.com. You can find out more. I'll also have a link and a brand new page on my site for sponsors and, of course, other featured companies that I've ever interviewed or interact with or promote on the page. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Let me know what your thoughts are. And then, of course, have a great holiday. Enjoy the family. And stay tuned to next week's episode. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you so much for listening. We love your support and want to provide the best we can to all our listeners. So please find us online, social media, and on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
Entering from the traditional real estate world. There are folks who are entering from the traditional investment world. Mm-hmm. The number one thing that I tell them is that this is a hospitality business, that the returns are not quick. The traction that you gain is not overnight, mm-hmm. but it is an incredibly fulfilling and increasingly lucrative new industry that pretty much anybody can enter if they have the right requisites.
100% agreed. I think
so. Do you have those checklists item, Will?
I do personally. Yes. I love people with all my heart. I love the hospitality industry with all my soul. And my focus has always been about the guest experience. So it's not, and then kind of stepping into the manager role from my previous job was really about not just the guest experience, but the team experience, the development of my team and the growth that we had together as a unit. And so, which kind of ties back into people. I love just people as a whole. And I think there's a lot of cool things that we can do to enhance moments, to enhance relationships and connections, because again, at the end of the day, we're all about the human-to-human connection. You and I right now are having a human-to-human connection. Yes, there's technology involved, but at the end of the day, part of podcasting or part of hospitality is really about the people and the connection that you build. So I totally agree with what you're saying. And I've seen people that don't care about that type of stuff. You know, they're more about an investment or a real estate, lens or angle. And yeah, that's good for business. But at the end of the day, if your bottom line is not in the right spot, it may not work out.
I really like the way you phrase that. In fact, I'm going to start using this people person thing as an additional way of presenting the same subject matter. If you don't like people, this is not the industry for you.
Yeah.
But oppositely, if you enjoy building teams, if you enjoy looking someone in the eye while they're on vacation and suggesting they try out this incredible new restaurant, if you enjoy, in your case, Will, you're going to begin building a collection of properties. Mm-hmm. If you enjoy going to meet owners and really taking care of their asset, if you are a people person, this is a great industry for you. If you are not a people person, this is a terrible industry. You should not even consider.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what kind of background you kind of came from, but what has, from the host and management standpoint, has that been like the foundation, or did you have to learn that going into with your properties that you had and recently, sold for that business?
Can you reframe that question?
Yeah. So when you first started out 12 years ago with your properties and all mm-hmm. the things that you're doing, managing and owning, did you get into it because you love people, or did you just see that it was like you said, you were in Panama, so there was no real competition, and then it kind of grew from there?
I got into it as a completely naive 24-year-old guy who thinks that he could do anything.
Yeah.
And this is a nice second big 101 tip. Mm-hmm. We could call it 102.
102
is everybody falls into it completely accidentally.
Yeah.
And I say everybody more or less up until now, because now the industry has gained so much exposure and things have become so mainstream that people are entering deliberately. Yeah. They're entering intentionally with a plan, which is amazing. Yeah. You have a huge leg up on people who started 10, 20 years ago. That said, previously, everybody who got started did so accidentally. In some cases, it was to keep a home that they otherwise couldn't afford. In other cases, it was because they got fired from their job during the recession. In other cases, it was wanting to keep the family home alive, this legacy thing. Because all of us got started accidentally, the next biggest error was not having a formal plan, not having a business plan, because that'll get you into trouble. That is, it doesn't become apparent until things start growing.
Yeah.
In which you realize, like, oh, wait a minute, I've just been enjoying this great momentum and making money and hosting guests. I've been on this like honeymoon experience. Now all of a sudden I realize I've drifted somewhere out to sea, and I don't have like any kind of compass or map. And for what a lot of managers who find themselves in that predicament today are realizing, that it takes, the longer you go without a plan, is that the harder it is to restructure and get yourself back on path. Mm-hmm. So the next huge thing that I recommend people do is indeed have a business plan. And I am the kind of person who, when he hears that advice, pretty much ignores it, because I think business plans are stupid. But what you do need is some rough idea of what the heck you're doing. That's another way of putting it. And putting that on paper, having an idea of numbers, of projections, how much things cost, how many bookings you anticipate, how much money are you going to be paying out to marketing channels? How much is it going to cost you to get a cleaner? What kind of software or technology do you plan to use to manage your business? How much does that plan to cost? Mm-hmm. Until you project out the next sort of year, 2 years, 5 years, you're kind of just going with gut instinct. And this is something my generation of vacation rental professionals suffer from, because again, we got started in really easy times. It was just too easy to get up and running, making cash and making people's vacations. Mm-hmm. Now it's a much more professional landscape. There's more and more competitors arriving to the market. Mm-hmm. And you need to have a plan. You need to have something structured. And to someone like you, Will, that may sound silly, like how would you start without a plan? But most vacation rental professionals got started without a plan.
No, definitely. My parents, I kind of like you, I didn't really I wouldn't say accidentally, but it kind of did. They had an apartment above their garage. There was this huge house on big acreage, and there was this vacant space that was being useless. And so they renovated it, turned it into a little Airbnb, and they're not really being an Airbnb at the moment. They just let guests, like friends and family, stay there. And then, the whole Airbnb buzz took off, and they put it on there, and I helped them with that. And that's where I kind of really fell in love with the travel/people and the experience, and then dove into the hotel side from there. But
let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that's an important stepping stone for a lot of newcomers.
Yeah.
Airbnb as maybe the most recognizable single thing in any of our work. Mm-hmm. And it's relatively new. It's only risen over the last few years, or I don't know when Airbnb started. I think it was not around in my early days, that's for sure. But most people, Airbnb is their first sort of touch point of our industry before getting started. Your parents are a perfect example. Mm-hmm. Why don't we just put it up on Airbnb and see what happens?
Yeah.
That is the most common first step. And what a lot of people make the mistake of doing is thinking that a full calendar on Airbnb, while great, don't get me wrong, it is a great feeling and it's wonderful on the bank account. Thinking that a fully booked calendar on Airbnb is synonymous with a sustainable business. And this is where the conversation sort of begins to shift into the world of professional vacation rental business ownership. Okay. One could argue that a property that is listed only on Airbnb that makes $100,000 a year and doesn't do anything outside of that is a business. And I would agree with them in the same way that a app that's been created and sold exclusively on the iTunes App Store and sells $100,000, that to me would be a business as well. But there is a continuum of what it means to run a small business these days. And the thing that you realize very quickly when you are completely synonymous with Airbnb is that your business is dependent on them. And that sounds fine up front, but when you start to think about it, it actually means that the health of your business is severely limited. So what people typically end up doing when I first meet them through the VRMB platform is saying to themselves, oh, wait a minute, Airbnb is great, but I want to explore with some other booking platforms. I want to consider VRBO. I want to consider booking.com. Or the next step of the journey, which is, oh, wait a minute. All of these.
A lot more coming out soon. So everyone that's following or listening along, stay tuned for more to come out.
Thank you so much for listening. We love your support and want to provide the best we can to all our listeners. So please find us online, social media, and on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. This has been super fun to create the Mastermind Series for vacation rentals. So if you are still interested or curious, there's more information regarding TravelNest at join.travelnest.com/Slick Talk, and you can find out more information there. And I'll also link it in the description below. And then also, just many cool episodes coming out with this series. This is a 10-episode, 10-week mastermind series with people that have been in the industry for a very long time and also innovated and created some unique products, services, you name it, whatever there may be. We're going to discuss it on the show. So I'm really excited for the upcoming episodes as well. So stay tuned. 10 weeks, 10 episodes, 10 amazing people. And just so everyone knows, there's going to be a couple bonus episodes. So stay tuned, and I'm really excited. So thank you for joining Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, and the Mastermind Vacation Rental Series. What's up, everybody? If you've gotten this far into the episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, then you are amazing, and thank you so much for tuning in. We want to send you two places really quickly. If you can, check out the show notes and click the hospitality.fm link. Check out all of our other shows on the podcast network. And don't forget, if you have someone that you want to hear on the podcast, then fill out the guest fill out form so that way we can get them on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy another episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast.